I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite
podcast
on the Citadel.
Hello and welcome to Accidentally Casual, and as you can hear, Seeker's doing the intro, so you know what that means. It's Dragon Age time! So we're going to kick off with our thoughts, opinions, and projections for Dragon Age 4. With me, I've got Ability Drain.
Hello, you're right.
And...
Do you remember me?
Yay! Special guest.
She's come out of the woodwork for Dragon Age.
Yeah, we said dragon. She's like, huh? And then like got all her stuff
It's
ready.
like, oh, do it.
Like she was here and like prepped and everything. We just
Yeah.
we didn't even mention a podcast. We just said Dragon Age.
Dragon Age?
Whatever it is, count me in.
Dragon Age. Like you know that guy in SpongeBob who's like chocolate. That's
That's me with
basically-
Dragon Age.
Yep.
Yeah.
To be fair, that's most of us for Dragon Age. But yes, and also Minius GC.
The GC is not actually part of my name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What does it
although
stand for anyway?
It stands for whatever I feel like at the moment.
Goodly cool.
Yeah.
Okay, today it is goodly. Did you say coo? Like
Cool.
with no L?
No, I said cool. As
It's
in-
an
Okay.
accent
Oh.
thing, mate.
It's an accent. It's a British thing, isn't it?
Okay.
British thing.
In it.
In it.
In it.
Also, no Tucker this week.
Oh, what a shame.
We told him to fuck off.
Yes.
Poor Tucker.
Yeah, he was coming up with ideas and just like, oh yeah,
God.
guys, you could explain the Dragon
I'm
Age
having
thing to me
flashbacks
whilst
again.
we're trying to discuss it. I was like, no.
So what is a dragon?
Yeah.
I'm like,
And
"Shit,
what is the
man."
age?
So we actually recorded a podcast already. It's coming out in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we did.
So if her voices sound a little sexy and gravelly, that's the reason.
Then
This is me.
that's
It never
positive.
sounds sexy or gravelly.
Oh, darling, you underestimate yourself. You sound sexy all the time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We have to do this again. Ability Rain, who are you?
Yeah. I don't know. Where am I?
She
What time
she
it?
is a person.
Existential
I am.
crisis.
I'm having an existential crisis.
highly
who am I?
qualified for this podcast.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
I'm losing the will to live. No, I'm joking. It's fine. I don't know. What do I do?
What am
Well, how-
I? Who am I?
I do YouTube
Why am
sometimes.
I here?
You know, sometimes I do YouTube when it's not being a massive prick. I used to cover a lot of Dragon Age, and I will when they start talking about Dragon Age 4, which is incidentally the topic of today's podcast.
Yeah.
And I do voice acting.
We're so
You know,
desperate for them to
sometimes.
talk about Dragon Age 4. It's like, fuck it, we'll do it. We will
Yeah, it's like,
speculate
we'll bloody
wildly.
start it.
We will just
I feel like
get the ball
it's been
rolling.
84 years. It's been 84 years.
God damn, we've got to find that heart, Jewel of the Ocean.
Yeah, I'll find that soon, and then I'll bloody find Dragon Age 4.
I still get to feel smug about those people that are still holding out for Half-Life 3. And I'm like, hey, at least Dragon Age 4 will happen
Give up.
eventually.
Yeah, let
Like,
it go.
You see that's it. Just hopefully. I'm gonna drop that and scare everybody.
Oh, you never
Just-
know.
I have to get in a few notes before we really get going. Although I'm gonna kick this stuff to the end of the podcast now because I waste too much time on it. But thank you for your logo entries because we got some really cool ones, and we will choose a logo next week.
Some of them were so good, I was like, it's going to be really hard to decide between them. Some of them were really, really, really good.
We need Tucker to unfuck off for that.
Yes.
And thank you for picking Detroit Become Human as our first game in the Accidental Casual Gaming Club.
It's a good
I
game.
will. We'll talk about that towards the end too.
We're just whinging because neither of our choices got
I'm all
picked.
about Connor.
I will have
What
to
was
give
your
that a go.
choices?
My choice was Persona 5, which I adore.
I haven't played that yet.
Well,
It's
look-
so
look-
good.
Yeah, I'll bring it back up at the end. We'll give you a timetable on that and everything because we need to
Okay.
talk Dragon Age.
Yes.
Yes.
More Dragon Age.
Dragon Age. So, Dragon Age 4.
This one is all about Dragon Age 4, which is not officially announced, but
But it's
almost
the worst kept
certain.
I mean,
secret
as
in
good as.
BioWare.
Come on, they've been
Yeah.
going on
If they
about
don't
it
do it, we should beat them up.
subtly.
No, I'm not condoning
I'll go
that.
up there personally. Yeah.
There'll be some serious problems if they don't. It's going to be announced next E3, almost certainly.
Bloody better do, or I'll flip my proverbial
That's not a
shit.
prediction. That's like a 90% guarantee.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if there isn't a trailer next year.
I heard rumours they were angling for like 2021 or something. I'll be so
serious?
old by then. Don't they know?
I know. Like,
Dude.
don't you know? Age is a
There's,
thing.
Yeah. I'll be far too old
that would be a problem
to
because
insert myself into a game by that point. I'd be like 100.
wait, 2021 because that's like 7-8 years of development.
Yeah.
Better be
That's a lot.
bloody good. I mean, that was just what I'd heard. I would say more realistically, maybe 2020.
I was
But
thinking
even then, that's still a long
2019,
time to.
because
Yeah,
2019
but then
is
but
5
Anthem,
years.
Isn't Anthem coming out?
But
in
they
2019?
have the capacity to make 2 games at once.
I mean,
Because
yeah, they
you
could.
They don't have the
It's
same
not,
people.
it's not an RPG, is it?
Because everybody
They
works
could,
on
but
different
will
things.
they?
So you have environment artists do one environment and then they move on to the next as the other people move in. I mean, they can do it. So
Like I'm all right with them taking more time as long as the game is good.
Yeah, I don't want them to rush it. But if they're taking as long as they do, in theory, it could be as good as what I feel Origins was when it first came out, because that took about 7-8 years as well, didn't it?
Not to mention that with that they had to do a lot of.
Oh, they had to- yeah, they had to do the
groundwork of the world and the lore
And write
and
like
history.
write the lore and backstories for everything.
Inquisition came out late November 2016.
2014.
Yeah.
2016?
Inquisition, wasn't it?
Was it?
Hang on, let's have a
2014,
look.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was like tail end
you're
of
right.
one
No,
of
it was
the
20. It was 2014. You're right.
Oh god.
So they've had a lot of time to.
I've
to
been
work
doing
on
this
it.
for years.
When did?
I hope I ain't aging that badly. My God, that was a million years ago.
Yeah.
When did Trespasser come out? Because I guess that's
That was
officially whenever.
2015. That was
Yeah,
early
yeah.
2015.
So the game
think.
came out 18th of November 2014. So it was like I want to say like mid to early 2015.
I think it was about like either March or May. maybe.
Yeah, it was definitely
Whoa,
an M.
It said this is saying September 8th
Of what?
of 2015.
Really?
So almost
Do you know what I
almost
mean?
a year after
2015 was a complete fucking shambles and a blur to me back then. It was a bad year. So I mean,
Yes.
I have no.
It was a
concept of
bad
time
year
from
for
that.
me. Like Inquisition was like an island, a safe little island that I clung to.
Yeah,
so.
I was just completely nutso then.
Yeah.
Thanks Prozac. So yeah, fuck knows. It's all one big blur.
So at the very least, it's August. No, it's September now. So that's 15, 16, 17, 18,
So like
3
4
years ago. So 4 years is enough to make
Oh,
this
you're talking
game, I think.
from Trespasser. Yeah.
Yeah.
From Trespasser.
How long did they take to do Inquisition? I can't even remember now.
From
think that was about
Dragon
4
Age
I think
2?
yeah,
or
because I was
from-
gonna say because like wasn't DA2 like 2012? I want to say.
I thought it was 2010, wasn't it?
Frantically googling
Yeah, because it was like 8 years.
because like.
But don't forget, we
Origins
found
was like
2011.
2009. Oh,
March-
2011.
what? Jesus,
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't too far out. But that's still
2011.
well-
So it took
well
them
long
3.5
ago.
years for Inquisition.
And Origins
Which means
was like 20,
I really
2009.
think Dragon Age 4 is going to be announced at E3
Soon?
and released next year. That's my
I
prediction.
hope so.
I hope
And no
so.
complaints
And if
here.
it's not, they're going to run into issues because there's going to be
I
a
will
console
flip my
generation coming
shit.
over. No, I mean
Oh yeah, God, you're right.
there's going to be the PlayStation 5, Xbox, whatever the fuck they're going to call it. Obviously,
Yeah.
if you're a PC gamer, it doesn't matter, but those may come out in 2020.
And that they'll have the same problem that they did with Inquisition,
Which
where
I
obviously the
really hope
changeover
they don't.
happened.
I mean, I
Yeah.
really hope
Well, they wanted
don't
to
do that.
avoid that. They said they wish that they hadn't done it backwards compatible because I
'Cause
guess
they
felt
was-
like
they
they
were
could have done more
heavily limited.
otherwise. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And the
that's
hair looks stupid on the Xbox.
that's bad. If you think it's
360.
going to come out in 2021, that is almost certainly a next gen game.
I mean, so long as it's good, I don't mind. And so long as they stop
Okay.
killing off all my bloody fucking characters and my favourites, then that's fine.
They're
Stop
going
it,
to kill
BioWare.
off everybody.
Do you know what? David Gator threatened to do that in Inquisition. He said he wished he'd done that in the, the beginning where everything fucking blows up. He was like, I should have just killed off everyone in that. And I was like, Jesus Christ, don't scare me.
You know, like
He's-
George R. R.
he's kind
Martin
of a jerk.
tends to say when people ask
Yeah.
about how Game of Thrones ends, he's like, "Could bear in mind we know there's going to be two 2 books coming. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, everyone dies in the first one, and the next book after that is just descriptions.
People mopping up the blood.
The descriptions of wind blowing over everyone's graves in
The
detail.
decaying process.
Yes, basically.
Thanks.
Like the
Wonderful.
ultimate
That's
troll.
exactly what I wanna
That book
see.
will be out in 2040.
Oh god, yeah. Like, can we just already start the process to turn George R. R. Martin into those Futurama heads in jars? So he just like, so you
we can't write
absolutely
anymore,
can
it's just
finish
a
the
head.
fucking book.
Well, you might do.
So, do you guys think they're going to announce Dragon Age 4 next year?
I would say yes. Like, can you imagine the ultimate troll? Like, if
Like
one
officially. Like say, right, it's definitely making. Here's a little dinky trailer. Yeah, I reckon so. But I don't necessarily think it will be out in 2019. I think 2020, 2021 at the latest.
But can you imagine the ultimate troll if, say, like Mark Dara or something came to announce whatever Anthem thing they were announcing for, like, oh, here's a new DLC or a patch or something, and walked on with a Dragon Age T-shirt, and we sat there like, you know,
It's like, "Ooh, it's happening,"
quivering
and
with
it didn't.
anticipation. And he's like, and here's the Anthem thing. Goodbye.
I'm like, bastard.
And then it's
came out
just,
again,
yeah, and then it's just
kidding,
5
and it'll be
minutes
fine.
of silence because they booked the full time.
Yeah, I'm like,
I want to mention that we're
So
going to have
angry.
spoilers on this podcast, so stop
Spoilers!
listening now.
naturally.
But what if they tear down the veil and it becomes an Anthem mashup? How mad would you be?
I'll scream the fucking place down.
You'd
You'd be able to hear me for miles.
Why is this a sci-fi game now? What happened?
Or just if it's one of those things where Solus, there's a massive tear in the veil and he's got the MacGuffin that will finish the job, and he holds the MacGuffin up to it, but it's just about to touch, and then the Quarian arc powers through.
I'm like, what's going on?
He comes in on a Reaper.
Yeah.
You're like going to beat him, and then he
Here
just
it
drops a
comes.
2-kilometer Reaper on top of you. You're like, shit.
Cowabunga!
I mean-
I think that.
Yeah, and then the turtles come in.
Like, just the whole
SpongeBob
multiverse
appears.
just shatters, and suddenly there are no rules anymore. Up is
Yeah.
down.
I mean, I'd be highly entertained. I'll give it that.
it'd be like, I've
maybe.
never seen something a game set itself on
Yeah,
fire
I'm so
before.
confused. I don't know. I think that'd be kind of fun
In a way.
In a way, maybe.
as an experience. You know.
As an experience, like, can you imagine, like, if that opened up and it's like, right, now you can go
So
into any
basically,
fictional world
what
you
it would
want.
turn into is Gary's mod.
Oh, okay, that is sounding... Oh, we've got to stop talking about this because I'm actually being sold on the idea of it now. It was supposed to be a shitty joke of me making a
They
dig at
could do
Andromeda.
a story-based kart racer with all their characters.
Yeah.
So to tentatively try and get some rails back on this conversation.
This is a rail-less podcast. Don't do that.
I know. Oh god. Tentatively, Minions.
All right.
But so we know because BioWare has very firmly told us in the stinger of Trespasser that the game is heading for Tevinter. And that's
Finally.
going to be the setting of the game. Yes,
Finally.
finally. I was, because I was so
By
happy.
far
Like,
the most interesting of all the areas, in my opinion.
I mean, I
I
would
wouldn't
love
mind going to
theoretically.
Antiva.
Antiva or Ravane. I would love to see Ravane.
Yeah.
That's true.
I bet they're all hot in
all the
Ravane.
major ones, I guess.
Tevinter is certainly the one that has the biggest amount of question marks, especially since
Yeah.
like, I did a whole video for the channel, like my pitch for DA4, and basically my pitch was like, okay, so you're the leader of Slave Rebellion in Tevinter, and then you have to sort of liaise with all the other powerful factions, so you have to liaise
I
with
would
the
love that.
Inquisition, and then you have to liaise with Ferelden and Orlais and politicians and stuff.
There
And
you go.
I
like
came
that a
up with,
lot.
you should listen to my video. I came up with like a 3-act structure and everything, and the companions it would be, and
Can
of
I have
course-
Varric as a love interest?
unfortunately, I was just like I pushed it down because I didn't think it was likely, but I did say that I thought Lace Harding would be the first dwarf romance.
Oh, I reckon she'll be in the game. Everybody loved her so much, and we haven't had a lady dwarf romance or any dwarf romance, really, have we?
The character I'm desperate for them to put in because she's been
Varric.
on the sideline. It's a she. She's been on the sideline. She's been in a War Table quest. She's been in a comic, and she very fleetingly appeared in the epilogue slides. Is Maevaris Talani, who,
Yes.
if you don't know,
Oh, I hope so.
is for those in the back, is she's a Tevinter Magister who's friends with Dorian.
I love Dorian.
She's trans. Dorian is amazing. She's trans,
Best friend.
and she is this very
She's very sassy and,
I was
and
going to say
quick-witted.
sassy. I was going to say sassy, and I was trying to like assess in my brain if I was like, is that offensive? No, I'm fairly sure sassy covers her
Sassy
personality.
is definitely not offensive.
No, yeah, but
If
like,
you're
she's-
offended because someone calls you sassy, you need to get over it. That's a
I get
compliment.
sassy. I get called sassy all the time, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So yeah, she's sassy, but she's very strong-willed, and she and Dorian, as of this moment in canon, are trying to reform
Banter.
to
Can you
Vinter
imagine
from
the
within.
banter between them?
Yeah, it would be
Amazing.
so good. And like she, of course, she's named after Mae West, so she's got this fabulous look. And her being trans is not the sole part of her personality or identity. In
No,
fact,
they-
to me, like if I didn't know, bear in mind, I'm not the most clued up on the trans experience or being trans, but if I didn't know going into reading the comics that she appeared in, the name of which are escaping me, I wouldn't have picked up on it. I just would have completely passed me by. But the fact that she was such a terrific representation just was the cherry on
I
top
think
for
they
me.
handled that really well as well. They didn't make a big thing out of it. They just, it's just, it appeared in the comic that like her dress got torn and you could just see that, like, obviously she had a male physique and that was it.
Not to mention,
Right,
like they
I thought-
explicitly
I
said
thought it was done very
beforehand,
well.
like, oh yeah, she's like Varric's cousin or something because she married into the family, so she's her former husband
yeah.
was a dwarf, and it was like,
Yeah.
how does a
That's not fair.
marry
She
a
gets to
dwarf?
romance dwarves and I'm not allowed.
So
Yeah.
what is the
fair.
thing you most want out of this game?
Varric. No.
Varric.
I
What
wanna
I
leave-
want,
yeah, sorry, yeah,
I
you
want to
go first.
leave Ferelden and all the past characters in the past. I'd prefer there not to be too many cameos, except for obviously Dorian, who's relevant. Anyone that's relevant to the story, great. But I kind of want to move away from the Ferelden thing, from the whole, free marshes and Orlais and that, and just start afresh with these new characters in a place where we're not familiar. Excuse me, we're not familiar with their traditions, their ways, because obviously when it comes to the Chantry and mages, it's a complete flip to what we're used to. So I really want it to just be its own thing. Obviously still attached to Dragon Age and all that, but the story itself, aside from with Solus and that, I'd like it not to do too many callbacks and references to shit we've done before,
Yeah, I agree. Especially since, like as you said, it's a complete flip on what we're used to. So the
Right,
idea
yeah.
of mages being power, slave class, and everything, that opens up some fascinating story options. Not to mention with Saharan and Cunedar being so close, and there
The
was
Canaries being dicks,
it's
as
going to
per
be
usual.
yeah, the Canary are quite frequently dicks.
Except for Iron Ball. And I mean,
Well, he's
Sten's all right.
if you play the game correctly, he's Talbashov. And yes, there is a correct way to play through that quest. Fight me.
Yes. It's like you don't bloody kill off the Chargers.
You know what I loved about that is that there was something that pinged in the back of my brain when it was like, do you let the Canary die, the Dreadnought die, or do you let the Chargers die? And I realised in that moment, I was like, this isn't a fight of nations or men. This is a fight to save one man's soul. And I
Yes,
was like, yeah,
this
of course
is-
you save his soul.
Exactly. And you can see his face. If you do pick the Chargers, not Chargers, sorry, the
Dreadnought.
the Canary, if you side with them, you see his face when he has to sacrifice the Chargers. It's just like I can't do it. So I did it out of just curiosity and then reloaded.
I can't
But,
even do that. I was gonna say I can't
yeah.
even commit to even entertaining pushing that. I watched it on YouTube instead, just because I was just like, I need to see how that plays out. And then of course it ends with nothing personal, Bass, which is
Yeah.
just
And everyone was surprised. It's like, are you really surprised? If you've been playing this game,
You
you
know
know that it was going to come to that. You know what the
Exactly.
Canary are like. And they're like, it's out of order. It's ruining my choice. It's like, no, it was
And just-
predicted. We saw
yeah.
this coming. What were you doing?
especially since like the if I remember right, Bass in Kunlat is it's basically their word for outsider, but it basically translates to nothing, because that's what you rendered him as. You rendered him and his people as nothing So he designates you nothing. I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I love the Iron Ball. Anyway,
It's interesting that you guys are that ability drain. You said you wanted to be completely new because both Tina and Chris wrote to me that they want to get closure from previous storylines.
Oh yeah, no, obviously. I mean, there should be, for example, like the
Okay.
Solus thing. Any sort of open-ended stuff should obviously be wrapped up at some point. If not in this game, then in the others. But what I mean is, like, I don't want to be sort of constantly reminded about characters from the previous ones. So, for
Too-
example,
like too many
Alistair on its
cameos or
own
something
feet.
like that.
yeah, exactly. So Alistair coming back in it, what would be the point? You know, stuff like that. So long as you don't fucking kill them off, just let them do their thing. Maybe have like a written or verbal mention, but I don't want like, oh look, it's so and so, and then canned
Oh look,
laughter
here's an
kind of
army
shit, you know?
of characters that have no
Yeah, that
reason
don't
to
really
be in
need
the
to be
same
there.
room together,
Yeah,
suddenly
exactly.
all converging.
Yeah, that's what I don't want. And I want like, I want this game to feel unfamiliar to me, not in a completely different type of game, but just like the character. And maybe I'm saying that because with Inquisition, I knew too much. I knew who the love interests were going to be long before it was public, because obviously I don't know, I just got inside info. You know, I'm good at finding things out. And so I knew too much. And so when it came to playing it, I felt like I'd kind of ruined myself a bit because I knew what was coming. I really want to go into this game with no idea of where it's going. So it's fresh, it's surprising to me, because I miss that feeling that I had with Dragon Age Origins, where I didn't know what was going to happen next. And it was all just completely new ground for me. Now, of course, there's going to be things I'm going to know to a point because I'm clued up on the game, so I'm going to know roughly where things are going, but I want it to be a surprise to me. Like, I don't want to know who all the love interests are and who all the characters are going to be that I need to pick up and stuff like that, you know?
I think I know what you're saying, and I think it benefits to use sort of the analogy of like a TV show, or like like Star Trek, for example. Is like if you watch like The Next Generation or Voyager or Deep Space Nine, you know they all exist in the same world, but they're all pretty much in far-flung corners from each other.
Yeah.
So you know that, oh, if they go into they call up Starfleet Command. I know that wasn't really a thing for Voyager, but like Deep Space Nine, the idea of people visiting and recurring characters was a thing because, oh, that was just the way the station worked. Whereas Voyager, when they could only do sort of cameos very much later or as a holodeck thing. So so it's all self-contained, but hinging on the wider universe. So if there's wider universe plots with greater ramifications, then of course they crop up. But but for most of it needs to stand on its own 2 feet. What I would love,
just like, sorry, go ahead.
oh sorry, I was just going to say that bear in mind that we know due to law that Minrathous, the capital city of Tevinter, is the biggest city in all of Thedas. I would love if they could sort of refine the system that was in Dragon Age 2 with Kirkwall, but with Minrathous instead. So instead of like, oh, you have these sections, you have day and night cycle, and different things happen depending. Unfortunately, due to sort of lack of time and stuff, despite they tried so hard to get that as fleshed out as possible, it did feel a little bit sterile, the city. But if you could have it, like like obviously this is way dreaming, but I remember seeing when Cyberpunk. There's a bit
like
when
city.
a bustling city, and the idea of having this being this small cog in this enormous city, and then making decisions that affect everyone in that city.
Yeah, because that's something I was going to say. Because I
I
really hoped in Inquisition we'd have a big city area that we could explore, and unfortunately we didn't. I'm hoping that we'll get that in here, because I was hoping for that with Orlais, but you know that wasn't.
I was ranting about that the other week. I was saying like, oh my god, like Val Rio, like this city we've heard about in lore.
And we've only gone into one area.
We got this one fucking fountain. Are you serious?
Yeah, I really, you know, like how when you go and play an Assassin's Creed game and you're walking through the city and it's all built up. I would love that for a Dragon Age game, and I've been hoping for it for so long, and I'm hoping that with this one we'll get that.
Same here. I just want it to feel like a living, breathing city, and the idea of having like separate districts and like he's just I would lap that up if they could
Yeah.
manage to do that.
The technology's there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a matter
Absolutely
of like
could do
what
it.
their vision for it is. I'm just saying that if you were to say, right, here's a Word document, regurgitate all ideas, all things you would want in a Dragon Age 4 game, that would be sort of the
At the
system
top.
I would hinge it on. You know, sort of like you
Yeah.
have the city and that's your hub,
Right.
and you have it shifts and it's sort of bustling and affects depending on what you do. I would also love, as I said, I've said a few companions I'd love to be in it. Dorian's a must, but I think he'd end
Oh,
up being
definitely.
sort of like an advisory sort of
I think he'll
position.
reappear quite a bit. Yeah. I don't
because
think he
he's-
should be
yeah.
like a companion, but I think that if we're going to be having dealings with him, I think he'd probably pop up a fair amount.
Exactly. The idea of the only thing I'm slightly wary of, but I'm sure is going to end up happening. I would like for it to be, because bear in mind all of our protagonists have been started at least very independent of each other. I would be a little disappointed if it ended up being like, oh, you're an Inquisition agent or something.
I heard
like,
rumours about that, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't mind working for my former self, but I would still kind of prefer, like, now that you've suggested it as well, this whole idea of being like a rebel.
Have you ever
slave,
seen Prince of
basically.
Egypt?
Yeah.
I once had a dream where I was in the Dragon Age universe. I was in Minrathous. I was a slave, but I basically reenacted the scene where he pushes the slaver off and kills him, and then has to run. And I was just like,
Yeah.
that would be so
And imagine doing that
cool!
for a bustling city and legging it.
Yeah,
It'd be so good.
yeah, and going to hiding, and it's just
Yeah.
it's so
In the
good.
bloody sewers and shit.
And then you're just
that's
like,
the sort of
you
thing I'd
can
like.
you can have options of like, oh, we're going to start the revolution, or no, fuck this, I'm going to get out of here. This has nothing to do with me, you know.
Yeah.
I was at the wrong place, at the wrong time, and you can just have your own input
I mean,
in
I
your
don't-
character that way.
I don't mind doing work for the Inquisition. So say like, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
we're like this rebel little shit doing little shit things.
Exactly.
And then later on they're like, look, why don't you do some work for us?
Hey, you want some weapons or some funding?
Right, you know,
The
like a
Inquisition can help out
mercenary.
with that.
Just
Yeah,
hire us and
exactly.
it's like, here, do some sneaking around for us. And, you know, we'll pay you. And we're like, okay, cool. And that would be pretty good. Because then you've got your reference back to the Inquisition. So you're kind of like, yay. But then it's not so heavily involved that, you know, you're now an agent for them.
Yeah.
You're more like a freelancer.
Like,
I still like.
bringing
I mean,
it into Anthem.
we talked about this on the podcast that's not out yet, but the Dragon Age Origins part, the beginning,
Oh, I'd love
where you
for them
have
to bring
so
that
many
back.
different
Yes.
options. So
And then
that
it
is
could
what
be
I would like to be
oh, you're
beginning.
already
Yeah.
in the Senate, or
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact names of what Dorian says that the classes are. They say like you're
Yeah.
a lower class and you end up, I don't know, accidentally assassinating a much higher magistrate than you, and you take their position or something like that. It's just like the idea of having like wildly different perspectives and start of the game, regardless on your influence, your privilege, is fascinating.
Even if they don't do that, I would love a playable prologue, because what I felt was
Yes.
missing from Inquisition was the fact that it jumped straight into us being chucked into the Fade and having to escape. If they'd have done it where we went to the fucking hell, what was it called?
The Conclave.
Conclave. We went to the Conclave. We did a few things based on our class.
Especially
if you were like
exactly.
a rogue, you'd be there pickpocketing and being a little shit kind of thing.
Especially
If you're a
had
warrior,
side
then maybe you were there
character,
as security or whatever. If you were a mage, you were there because of the rebellion, and then you know you piddle around in there for a bit, and then shit hits the fan. Because I would have loved that, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
what's been missing ever since 2. Is that the playable prologues just aren't involved enough, and that would serve really well as a tutorial as well. That would be your tutorial. Piddle around in there, shit hits the fan, and then the main game starts, like they did with Origins.
Especially since like someone can say it's cheap writing, but imagine how much more powerful the Conclave explosion would have been
When you've started
Bear in mind,
talking to
like
people,
there
yeah.
could be people who have never touched a Dragon Age game before. We know the significance of the Mage Templar Conclave blowing up,
Yeah.
But someone going in is just like, I guess
So
a bunch of people
why
just
am I in
blew
this?
up.
Yeah. Why am
Whereas-
I in this green swirly thing? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Not to mention
Yeah.
it irks me every single goddamn time I play a Dalish Llewellyn and the game loads up and she's in Shem clothes. It's like, why? Why
It's
doesn't
fucking
she...
ugly at all.
I
It's
know,
like, what am I
it's kind of
wearing?
ugly.
Stupid.
And so the idea of like,
Mods.
so you can say it was cheap writing, just be like, oh, we'll give you a friend, and then you can be horrified when the friend
And then your
inevitably
friend dies, or your
But it's-
boyfriend dies, or your
exactly.
girlfriend dies, or whatever. Yeah,
But it's
'Cause
like
you
they did the
what
same
they
thing
did
with
in the original-
Tamlin. Yeah, in
yeah, it's
Tamlin
like in Origins with the human noble. You know, you could flirt with that guy, and then the guy gets slaughtered when he comes out your bedroom, kind of shit. And you're just like,
or the woman. You could sleep with Iona as well.
Could you?
Yeah.
Holy shit! Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. You
But
learn
it
something new every
it
day.
almost seems worse because she goes to open the door. I don't know. For some reason it seems, because I wasn't expecting, because I slept with Iona the first time I played Human Noble, because Dyron didn't really interest me much. So to just see her carved down is just like, whoa! That was
just
not
like,
something I was
wow,
expecting.
that was unnecessary.
Yeah,
People by
exactly. Like,
chance, you know.
exactly. It's just so brutal. Like, oh, why do so many people in this game have to die in such terrible pants?
Yeah, it's like at least let them get some nice clothes on first.
I'm so glad you know what I'm talking about, because I'm sure
Oh, yeah,
this
the
seems
loincloth
completely
thing.
mad. But so we had suggested as companions or characters you'd like to see return. I'd love to see Fenris return, because bear in mind, like, bear in mind, obviously,
Yeah,
my
he's very
default
relevant
is,
to that.
oh, Fenris. Is like, yeah, but this is set in, like, Ravain. It's like, oh, yeah, but I still want Fenris there. Why?
Well, hang on.
Because
In
Fenris.
Inquisition, doesn't Varric tell you where everybody is? What did they say about Fenris if
They
you
said
romanced
he's
him?
killing a bunch of Tevinter slavers, so it's not entirely
then
out
he
of
might be in-
possibility. I was like,
he could be
right,
in
vague
Tevinter.
justification is all I need. Let's go with it.
Is that what Hawk said as well when you talk about Fenris? Because obviously Hawk
yeah, I
speaks
think
to us about
I've
it.
only had if Fenris has been romanced, where he basically just says, Fenris didn't want. Fenris wanted to come with me, but I couldn't put him through that, or something to
Oh
that
yeah,
effect.
that's what they said about
Yeah.
Anders as well.
Exactly, because with Anders it's like, oh, I didn't want to risk getting him near Corypheus if all these wardens
Yeah.
were coming corrupted.
Oh yeah, of course, because he was. Yeah.
And it's like, why is the Blackwall corrupted? Funny thing, that.
Oh, he's just very, very, very not a warden.
I love that they literally had to
Bastard.
justify why the greatest spy master ever, Liliana, just had this complete oversight with someone literally
She was like,
under
well,
her
shit,
fucking
I
nose.
can't look at everything all at once.
Sorry, I dropped the ball on this one fucking guy.
Well, I mean, it just proves that she's not perfect, and that's
Exactly.
fine by me.
Exactly. So any other characters, like, I'd love, because he's been in everything since Awakening, I would love to have Nathaniel Howe pop up just to be
Oh,
like,
yeah, but because he could possibly die, can't he? So, but it would be nice if he just was like, hello, and I'm like, right. I want Sandal and his dad back.
yes,
Bodine,
please,
that's
for
it,
the
I
love
forgot
of
his name
God.
for a second.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel right without them.
I
in
know. I was
Inquisition.
like,
but
especially
where?
since, like, in 2, the last thing he says to you is like, "Oh, we're off to the court of Empress Celine." I was like, "Oh,
Right, I was like, we're
yay!"
bound to like run into them, and I felt like, you know, they were like C-3PO and
R2D2.
R2D2 of
I
the
genuinely
series, and
thought
then,
I'd
then they
missed
weren't
them.
there.
I thought I'd missed them in my first playthrough. I was like, they must be in the Winter Palace somewhere. I just
Yeah.
must have missed them.
I mean, you do
they're-
hear
yeah.
about Sandal's journal in
Yeah, in
Trespasser, but that's what
Trespasser,
it's-
yeah. I'm sure that someone threw that in as an Easter egg, just be like, well, you shut
yeah,
up
they
about
did.
Sandal already. Like, yeah. But it's like, how the fuck did he get in the face? I would love for them to actually explain
he gets everywhere.
what Sandal is and how.
I don't
what-
even think they know, but I've got a theory. It's something to do with the. You know, there were supposed to be more dwarves somewhere in the Titan.
Yes.
And those blue creepy ones that I've forgotten their names were sort of guarding everything. I think there's probably more dwarves further in, like maybe ancient dwarves or something, and he was one of them that somehow managed to wander out.
There's also
and,
there's that
Bodine
theory
found him.
that there's the theory that was highlighted in Legacy that he might actually have been a child between a very famous dwarven family and a human or an elf that was abandoned in the
Maybe.
deep roads, and that's
Well, I
how
reckon he
Bodine
might
found
be.
him.
You remember that chick, and I've forgotten her bloody name, but she becomes like one with the Titan.
Oh,
Maybe he
her.
was-
Yes, I know. who
Maybe
you mean.
he was like supposed to be the chosen child of that, and then he accidentally wandered off because it's Sandal, and that's how they found him, and that's why he's still got a bit of magic or something.
Yeah.
With
Especially
his
since,
not
like, he
enchantments.
freezes an ogre and you say, how did you do that? And his
So not
response is,
enchantment.
not enchantment. It's like, okay, terrifying.
You carry on doing your not enchantments.
Yes. I love what started as literally a gag of like, oh yeah, he's beat all the demons in the fucking game. It's now
Yeah.
like the most complex lore question of just like, what are you?
It's
Oh,
funny.
so I'm trying to think of any other characters I can pull off the top of my head. Because it just ends up being wish fulfillment, like all the characters I like. But I'm trying to think of
Yeah.
the ones that I would justify. I would love, love, love if the representative of the Inquisition they end up sending is Krem.
That
I
would
would
be
love
cool.
because that would be
Yeah.
like a fairly seamless way to sort of reach out with a recognizable
Well, yeah, because
face.
wasn't he was from Tevinter, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was from Tevinter. He was a
So,
lower
you know,
class and fled because he was in the
we
army.
might. Well, I tell you what, if Ball romanced Dorian in your Inquisition, which he did in mine, there's a high chance that he'll be there. You know, lounging
Anyway,
around
yeah, exactly. So I would love
for
to have
Dorian.
Krem be a bit more of an involved character because I think he's definitely got depth, and I would love to see a bit more of it. I
Yeah.
think it's very, very likely that Lace Harding is going to end up being a
Oh
companion,
yeah,
just because
definitely.
like fan response alone was just so like completely through the roof. So I mean, Ali Hillis
Yeah,
does
and
a
I
great
reckon
job.
she'll probably be
Oh
romancing
yeah,
though. I reckon.
I think
It's about time.
exactly. It was like we want a dwarf romance, damn it.
I still want to romance Varric, but I don't think they're going to let us because Bianca, fucking, I hate her.
Can you imagine if in DA4 they did like a like quasi fade dream sequence thing where
Yeah.
suddenly like Barrett gets like professes his undying love and gets down on one knee and then it ends up being a dream and it's like, what are you
I was like,
doing?
God damn it! I'd be so annoyed. I'd be like, leave me in the fade. Bugger off. I'm okay here.
I just love when he's like he's saying to Isabella in two, it's like, my eyes are up here, Isabella. I know, but the chest hair. It's like, wow, Isabella
Chest
truly is
hair.
every woman.
Yeah, I was like, a woman after my own heart.
Yeah, oh yes.
Maybe too much so sometimes.
I love Isabella so much. I would love to, actually, you know what I would adore? I've just thought of this because what I would love more than anything else in the world is for them to have the hub of Minrathous, but you can also travel to different countries. Like, say, if you're recruiting help or something, so you go
Yeah.
to all these different countries. What if Isabella is the captain of the pirate ship that you're using to go through,
Yeah.
and that she's ferrying you around for reasons that are involved in the story? But wouldn't that be kind of awesome?
That
Like,
would be pretty cute.
Queen.
As long as we don't have to like control the ship ourselves.
Oh
like
no,
in
no, fuck
Assassin's
that
Creed,
shit. No,
'cause that makes
I
me
just
wanna
mean
kill
like you know
myself.
how the system was in Dragon Age Origins, where you'd sort of have those little blood drops on the map
Yeah.
to indicate your progress. So you would just have that
This
in
little
between.
ship going doodly diddly dee across the sea.
Speaking of, do you know that there are actually basically giant sea serpents in around Cunedar called Aban
Well,
Atashi? And they
yeah, that
look, I've
doesn't
seen
surprise me.
illustrations of them, they look fucking terrifying. So
That
it's
would be
like,
fun.
that
I
would
mean, I
be
don't know how
fun.
we'd fight one. Maybe on the boat, that would be pretty cool.
Because the
But,
thing, they put them in the Dragon Age tabletop game, so someone's figured out how to fight them, I guess. So just hopefully you have ballistas
even
on,
if we
on the
just
ship.
see one, just like out of the water, that'd be pretty cool.
That would be so, like, if I was remotely in character, you'd just see like these spines just like break out of the water, and you
Yeah.
can like, and you
If
can
you
see
stare
they're
at the
like
sea for too long,
skyscraper high, and you're just like, nope, hard nope, no, 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 no. Let's sail as far away as possible, please. Oh, Jesus. And so I would love them to go to different countries so we can sort of really, because that was one thing I loved in Origins, was that the map felt like, despite the actual like proper in-game map size was relatively small, because the little map showed you traveling from one end of the country to the other, the game
Yeah.
felt huge.
Yeah.
And I would just love that, even if it's relatively small, to just, because like I said with Inquisition, I've said it before, is that it suffered from just having these vast empty maps of just,
Yeah.
well,
Nothing.
I guess I'll be doing this the
Which
next.
could have gone towards making a bloody city.
Yeah.
You know, drop a few environments away and just make a big city. I'll be happy.
Like the hissing wastes. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh Jesus,
No.
just desert, 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 desert.
And
Boring.
not even like just desert, but desert at night, desert at night, desert
I
at
mean,
night.
I liked the moon. That
The
was
moon
kinda
is
cute.
pretty, but it also, you can't
was
really
a good
stare at
big
the moon
moon.
for very long. Yep,
I mean, it was good for pictures,
that
but
is
that was
definitely a
about it.
moon. I remember just
Yeah, I was
thinking,
like,
hang
okay.
on, wasn't Theta supposed to have two moons?
Was it?
That
Can't
might
remember.
that might just been me, but I was just thinking I swear that was a thing, but I was resolved to not look it up because I knew if I looked it up and it was confirmed that there was 2 moons, I'd be annoyed. So feel free to confirm if that was or was not a thing.
2 moons. I thought it was only one, and it had like a mark on it. And
Yeah, because
it was the same in
everyone
Mass
lost
Effect,
their
and it was
shit.
supposed to
Yeah.
be like a cameo sort of shit, wasn't it? Like
Yeah.
a clever Easter egg. That was what I was
You know
thinking.
what I
Easter
reckon
egg.
it was? I reckon it was probably just a texture map that was
Reusing a
in the
texture, so
system.
that would do.
Yeah, just reusing a texture. They had no idea what it was from. It was just on the system. They're like, oh, sure, we'll use this
Obviously,
for a
the
planet.
Reapers don't feel that they're technologically advanced enough to harvest.
Yeah, so the Canary need to shut that shit down and just use magic
Yeah.
like all the rest of us.
Yeah.
So
Fades blocking them from coming through.
would you
It's
want
really
it to be opened up to races again, or would you be
Yes,
content
I
with
would.
just being
I would
human?
like that. That would be pretty cool. I don't want to just be a human.
Yeah.
You know,
I
because I
think
feel
they
like with
kind of
the
have
races,
to do that, right?
Yeah, considering like
which is
people
human or not.
complained
Excuse me.
uproariously for 2, like they had race options in Origins,
Yeah.
lost it for 2. People complained. They brought it back for Inquisition. I can't see them dropping it between Inquisition
No.
and 4.
And I think with the races, it opens up for so much more role playing and dialogue options and things, and more reason to replay it as well. The replayability factor is
That was the other
certainly
reason
higher
I
if you
liked
can.
the idea of beginning as a slave.
My voice
Because
is
if you
going
begin as a
completely.
slave, if you begin as a slave, like you could have any number of justifications for why they would have a human, an elf, a Canary. Like,
Yeah.
did they fork out extra to have a Canary mercenary as a slave? You know, it's like
Yeah,
there's so
exactly.
many potential things there, and you don't have to explain anything beyond like Tevinter Avarice. You know, it's just which we already have established in the world.
Yeah. I mean, would you prefer, out of interest, them to go the route they did last time where it was like just big separate areas, or would you like them to go like the Witcher 2 style where it's just one huge open world?
Oh no, I want lots of little separate worlds because I think the big world puts too much pressure on them. And bear in mind, like if I wanted to play something like The Witcher or Skyrim per se, I would go to a Bethesda or a CD Projekt Red game. I
Yeah,
want something
why?
like very tight, very linear story with outcomes that I can affect.
Yeah.
I think they went they bit off a bit more they could chew. They were trying to have the story and have it be tightly controlled, but also because the the maps were so big and there was
Yeah.
so much time, just even if you were just trying to breeze through as quickly as possible, like go to this thing A, you were still spending so much time just running to and from, or even if you got a horse, which I very rarely didn't use because of course the second you got on the fucking horse all the banter stopped. I was like,
Yeah.
no, this is
So I'll
literally
walk
the reason.
everywhere.
Yeah, like fine, I guess I'm walking.
I think they have to kind of cut down on the open world stuff for the sake of the story and the pacing of it.
Yeah. Because I feel like they were obviously pressured to do semi-open world at least. And I feel like it was a detriment to the story because then you had all these
Yeah.
big open worlds that weren't doing anything.
Something I meant to ask, who would you say your favourite villain of the series is?
I'd still say Logain because he was a grey area. You know, he wasn't completely evil or he wasn't completely good. He had his reasons for doing things and a bit of a tragic backstory. I prefer that when you've got your villain is not just like mustache twirlingly evil. That's when it's more.
Corinthians.
Well, even he wasn't. If you
Yeah,
did
yeah.
if you sided with the Templars, you hear some of his recordings. Fuck knows how he managed to record shit. Or was it? I don't remember if it was
It
like
was like
some sort of
crystals or
recording
something,
stone
wasn't
or
it?
something.
It was like
Yeah.
essence of something or other.
And
yeah.
he'd sort of give his reasons for why he was doing it. And even he wasn't like completely evil. He was just very misguided and confused. But you know, if it, like I said, if it is just mustache twirling evil, it's just not as.
Yeah. But he
I want
was
it to make
sort
me
of a
feel
big,
something,
tall
you know.
monster with red lyrium
Well, I mean,
embedded
yeah,
in his
right.
face.
He wasn't the
Yeah,
prettiest
exactly.
looking
Yeah.
villain, but I also like it when the villain turns out to be someone who you least suspect. In a way, kind of like Solus,
Yeah.
because it was like, oh, you little shit, you know.
I
Except for
love-
if I'm bloody romancing them, and then I'm like, oh man.
I love
Bastards.
asking these questions to Dragon Age villains because they always hop between like the super evil villains and then I love these villains because they're super evil. Oh, I love these guys because they're super
'Cause they're-
relatable and you understand their
complex,
motivation.
yeah.
Exactly. So I just love. He's a relatively minor character, but I love Al Howe as a villain because
Oh,
one thing
God, I
he's
forgot
voiced,
about him.
he's voiced by Tim Curry, so you cannot fucking beat that
Yeah,
with a stick.
he's voiced by our sweet transvestite. So
Yeah.
already.
But the thing is, he's such a despicable bastard. It's like
Yeah.
like he
But then
tortures
you know that when he
people
dies, you're
and-
like, shit, I've just killed someone I love to hate.
Yes.
But also, Tim Curry.
I know, and oh god, especially as like facing him down as a female Kuzland who's had to
Oh,
endure
yeah,
him
yeah,
slaughtering
'cause
her
he's-
family,
yeah.
and he's like, oh, like bear in mind, like which dialogue option you pick reflects on what he says back, obviously, but he's like, there's that look in your eye that your father would get. He'd be proud or something like that. That Kuzland spirit that's kept me down. Your father would be proud, or like he basically tells you like to get back in the kitchen and stuff. The only thing I thought, and not to mention his dying words are friggin' amazing as well. It's like from villain writing as well. Make a spit on you. I deserved more.
Yeah, it's like, you're such a bastard.
Yeah, die,
But,
bastard.
yeah, that's true. But even he wasn't completely evil because obviously, you know, his kids gave us a
Nathaniel
different
Howe.
view of what he was
Yeah.
like, obviously later on and stuff. But yeah, I mean, and he wasn't. If you're just evil for evil's sake, that's what I don't like. If there's a motivation behind it, or if you know you're
You know what I loved was
you're
that
trying to
I
accomplish
want
your
to
own
try to
thing, but
steer
you're a
this
prick, I quite
back
yeah.
on track to Dragon Age 4. How about the villain for that?
villain.
What
I
do you
think
want out of that?
I don't think it'll be Solus, and I don't necessarily think it should be Solus. I don't know what I'd want.
You know what,
really, as a villain.
I would
for
love for
that.
them to go back to like the very tightly controlled like Act 1, 2, 3 that they did for DA2, and I'd want them to be sort of a villain for each one.
Oh,
sort
I'm
of
not
like
sure
building
about
towards
that.
an
Like
overarching
progressively, what like you think you've got him, and it turns out there's that
Not
was a
quite
puppet,
like
and
that.
there's someone else behind it, kind of thing.
Not quite that cut and dry, because that just seems like, oh, and there's a guy behind that, and there's a guy behind that. It just ends up being a bit frustrating.
Shadow
but like, if you
organisation.
think, but just like how DA2 is structured, like there isn't really a villain for Act 1 outside of like your own poverty. You know, it's like, oh,
That's always the biggest villain.
exactly, like well, it's the one that hounds us all, really. But
Yeah.
if you think of like DA2, it's kind of a mix between Prejudice and the Arashock, because it's either the
Yeah, that's
circumstances that led the Arashock to turn on the city, which is the prejudice of like, oh fuck the Canary shit and all that malarkey. But he's still the boss fight at the end of it. So either way, you get sort of a satisfying climax to that arc. And then, of course, you get to Act 3, and then you're like, oh, it's Meredith has gone bonkers, or Orsino's gone bonkers, depending on what your choices were. But and then it's like, oh, and Anders has blown up the Chantry. Is he the villain in this now? It's like suddenly it's
The
like
true
security for
villain.
relief. Like the true
Yeah.
villain reveals himself. Who the guy who you may have been a loving partner
Begging.
to for about 3 years
I
convinced
still thought it
you
was
to
funny.
plant the bomb for him. Is like,
I was like, you could have bloody told me. I'd have done it if you just asked. Don't just be devious about it, you little shit.
I love that some people are like, oh yeah, I stabbed him first thing. It's like, I didn't want to stab him, but I did want to punch him in the face. I think
I mean,
that was
I stabbed him a couple of times when his voice actor was rude to me on Twitter.
Aww.
Worth it.
Oh, Jesus. I can't get over, I don't know whose decision it was, but why in God's name, when you're having a super dramatic moment where one character gets stabbed from behind in the back, would you add like a trumpet sound effect on the moment of stab? There's no like shink or
Womp
anything
womp.
like womp. It just immediately kills the tension. It just looks kind of stupid.
I don't remember
and
that.
Watch the scene back and it's just like this vroom. It's like, why would you add that sound effect?
Maybe it was like it doubled up as an instrument or something.
I don't know.
Murder
I think
knife
it was just one of
come
those things of
trumpet
like,
knife.
it was probably one of those things like, oh, this person's gonna die, or maybe like it wasn't described well enough exactly like what the moment would be. So when he was like scoring, he's like, oh, this will do, and then it plays in the moment, and it's like, oh no, this looks super awkward. It looks like he's just
I've never
farted.
noticed
That's
that.
what it sounds like.
Well, I mean, they do say you do release gas on the
I
moment
know,
of death,
that's the conversation you end up having with yourself. Why he's bleeding
I never
out and
noticed that, and
dying.
now I'm never going to be able to unnotice that.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
I am here to spoil Dragon Age for everyone. This is my goal.
I'm going to have to look at that afterwards.
And I'll also send you that picture of Iron Bull's dick.
Yes, there we go.
I will track that down.
That was for another podcast.
Yes.
Before we get too far or finish up, I want to point out that I'm actually quite a bit concerned for this game. And it
Yes,
has
I have a
nothing
few.
to do with, the people at BioWare. It has to do with Electronic Arts' new direction.
Yes.
The thing, and this just crushed me. It absolutely crushed me when they killed the visceral game, this visual Star Wars game that was being written by Amy Hennig. That was like, oh, that's a dream project. I'm gonna love that. And they're like, no, we're just not gonna do that. We're gonna.
Also,
we're
it's
gonna
like Amy Hennig. Like, why on earth would you not jump at the chance to have anything she makes?
And I mean, that was a perfect. So that trickles down to everything. And I really think, and I won't spend too much time on Andromeda, but the reason Andromeda felt like half a game is because EA decided they were going to stop doing that kind of game in the middle of it and just made them finish it. And
Yeah.
boy, I think we mentioned this before. If this has any kind of in-story multiplayer elements of Dragon Age 4, that is, it's going to damage the series, probably.
Yeah, I'm certainly concerned that the future Dragon Age could end up like an Anthem type of thing, which I really don't want. And also that whole rumor of Dragon Age 4 development rebooted. I was like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Are you rebooting the whole franchise? Like what?
Well, I imagine if they said it's rebooted, it means they built something and they decided to stop. And
yeah,
then
and why
they
was that?
started
and what
over
have they
again.
turned it into?
And
Like,
if they
why?
if
What was the
if
point?
that's true, that rumor is true, then I'm really worried.
I mean, is it just a reboot of like the engine they were working in, or the story reboot, or like game mechanic reboot? What have they done? And that freaks me out a bit. Because I mean, I want it to be an RPG, and I want them to finish what they started with the storyline as well, with Solus and everything. What's the conclusion?
If they can't do that, and that brings up the thing I never got to, which is what I want out of this game. I want them to have a story that's tied up. I don't want them to drag it out anymore.
Yeah,
Especially
I mean,
because as this goes
if
on,
the future's that uncertain as well, you need
boy,
to
there's a
wrap it up.
real chance that they're just going to not make it's going to turn into a Half-Life 3 situation.
Or a Telltale thing, since
Or a
that's on
by the way,
topic currently.
Telltale shut down.
Yeah, and that means that there probably isn't going to be any more Walking Dead.
And I'm a lot sadder over that than Minius is, because he hates QTEs. But
Yeah, we're going to get into that at the end of the podcast.
But I just wanted to say, sorry, because I just remembered this. I have violent deja vu. This is what my memory entails. I would adore, just because, like, Wicked Hearts was a good quest, but it didn't quite. I don't know if it was just it didn't feel like you had enough influence. It just wasn't quite the scheming political quest I was kind of hoping it would be.
Yeah.
Because you had to keep leaving the party to go track down the assassins,
Piddling
and
around,
it didn't really feel like the party was actually the centerpiece. It was just, oh yeah, there's assassins who, they're not at the party.
And
or anything.
canapes.
Yeah, canapes. I would love to have done canapes, especially like Cullen being hit on by
that was hilarious.
multiple women and a few men. It was like, oh.
I mean, I felt bad for him, but I was just like, get away from my man. Let me pick them up for you.
I would just have literally just stood Bull next to him, and was like, go on, try.
I'd have just like. ate
But
his
I would
face.
love,
Like,
I would love
bitch.
to have like a massive Antivan ball or something, and
Yeah,
the Antivan
something
crows
really
are there,
over the top.
and you've got to like figure out which is which based on like
Before
dialogue
they start
clues,
shanking people,
like dialogue
yeah.
clues, and you've picked up notes to say like, those little like logic quizzes where it's like, oh yeah, the person who has like the red cloak or something is related to this,
Yeah.
but like things like that where you've got to like piece it together. That would be
Who
interesting.
look at Sue's looking shifty and stuff. Although that could be a bit difficult with graphics, but it depends.
And then turning up in all his remastered sexy glory could be Zebrin, and I would be happy because I would
I'd
finally
be like,
have.
Zevran, you kill whoever you want, mate. Go
Yeah.
for it.
Like,
Except for my love interest.
yep. It's like, in fact, that guy, I think that guy's a bit shifty. Can you do some stabbing? And it's just Blackwall just stood there. Like, it's
yeah, no, that's
revenge from a previous life, you'll understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like being concerned for the game, of course I'm excited for the series, but I will confirm my suspicions or opinions when we have more information to go on, because at the moment
Yeah.
it's rumors. Like, bear in mind we can like extrapolate a few things. Like, Dragon Age 4 is widely becoming the worst kept secret in BioWare history.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, we know roughly who are working on it. We know roughly the stage of production it's in, depending on because the developers desperately want to talk about it, but then they let things not slip, but just like, oh, we're working on a thing and we're super excited about it. It's like, it's cute. It's cute that they want to talk about it.
Though,
yeah,
it makes sense that they're not talking about it because
of
more honestly, if you're looking for fans, you're like, what would you rather play, Dragon Age or Anthem? There's no question. So you're going to just skip over Anthem, and they need to try to get that to work.
Yeah, I mean, this is Anthem's time to shine, isn't
Exactly.
it? So everything else is like in the shadows waiting for its turn.
By the way, if there's an Anthem trailer out, we're talking about it next week.
yes.
But yeah, I think this is a huge game for the direction that BioWare is going to be going in. Mm-hmm. And I would have thought that, like maybe 2 years ago, that BioWare, there's no way it's getting broken up. And oh boy, if they're not able to make the kind of games that they're big on, it's a different series.
I feel like if Anthem fails spectacularly, what does that mean for BioWare? Because you know how ruthless EA can be.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that since Dragon Age is so far along, unless they rebooted it like they said, that's going to come out. And if that game kills, they're going to be fine. But if they both don't come out, and easily if you force like too much open world on Dragon Age, or you force multiplayer elements, because my favorite part of the entire Dragon Age series is how much of the world you can impact with your actions. Mm-hmm. And if you add multiplayer care, like, oh, now there are 4 playable people, you can't do that. Your actions are basically, they're not irrelevant, but you can't make world-changing decisions because one of the other people might have made a different decision.
Yeah.
So this is a huge game for BioWare. Huge. And it's why I'm so interested in it. I
just hope that it's not ruined, I guess. I mean, I'm trying not to get too doom and gloom or anything until, they've released something.
Right now we're stuck with our imaginations, right?
Right, exactly. And unless you know, the more you start wondering. And
so the freshest stuff in my in my imagination is the way Mass Effect kind of started falling down.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking of. And also, I'm going to say it again, that Amy Hennig game cancellation, I lost it. I could not believe they killed that game.
Such a shame.
And that's just, if they're going to kill that game, man, like, what are they doing with Dragon Age? I don't know. I don't know. And I'm very, very much looking forward to what they're going to do. I hope it's all locked in and ready to go. So it's too late to cancel it, and it's too late to curtail it.
Yeah.
And then they can come out and do the best thing that BioWare does, and then the game kills, and then EA will realize, like, oh, this makes money. Let's do that.
And if they've been working on this, even if it has been rebooted for as long as they have been, how much of a shame would it be to just be like, right, that's it, no more BioWare, no more Dragon Age, cut it, In the same way as, like the Telltale thing, they've just released bloody The Walking Dead final season, and now it looks like we won't be getting any more of it after, that one episode. It would be a similar sort of situation, just like gutting, I think.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so important that they wrap up the story. And I would prefer that they do it before DLC. Just in case. And, of course, there might be a new direction. Like, if you're going to reboot the Dragon Age universe and change it,
tie up the loose ends
the resolution might do that. And then you can move on with Dragon Age and have it be a separately different thing. But they've got to wrap stuff up. I'd be so scared. So scared of them not finishing. I hate when that happens.
Yeah,
happens a lot in TV shows.
I mean, I feel like they'd probably just wrap it up in a comic or something, or a couple of novels.
Which is nowhere near as fun, though.
But that's not going to be as good. So at least you'd know. but it's just not the same, is it?
Unless that comic ends up being a choose your own adventure, I'm not. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, choosing your own novel. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah, so that would be, I guess, the most important thing for me. Whew. Yeah, I'm not going to stop being scared about BioWare until this game comes out.
Yeah. After that, they can do whatever the fuck they want, as long as they finish shit up with the storyline and stuff. After that, I don't mind too much.
If you could have like a spin-off game or a genre shift for Dragon Age, is anything you would be intrigued by?
I wouldn't necessarily want one, but what I do want,
like gun to your head, like there absolutely
what
has
do you
to be
What do you
something.
mean by genre shift, though?
I mean, like, say, like, at the moment, Dragon Age is an RPG. Like, say, God forbid it became an RTS, a first-person shooter. But if you had to shift it into something what it isn't now. So essentially, like, the story, the world, the characters remain the same, but just the way the player interacts with it is slightly different, or the story structure is different.
an Otomi novel.
Yes! Oh my god, yes.
Could you imagine? No, I think I just let it die and be like, please don't do anything else with it. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would not want something else. I don't want a first-person shooter battle royale game.
I would like Dragon Age Origins remastered in like the Frostbite engine, because I think that would be amazing.
Oh yes.
Especially if they voiced the protagonist. I know they wouldn't, because obviously there's too much dialogue and shit for the protagonist to cover. But if I could have whatever I wanted, it would be that.
I would love to, like, if it was a thing of like there's going to be a spin-off game, what do you want? I think maybe a real-time strategy game. Maybe if you're doing like one of the bits in history of the lore that are set in stone. So like maybe Andraste or one of the Elven rebellions or something, or the what are they called? The Exalted Marches or something like that. Around.
I just can't see that working.
Like I said, it's moments that are already
Oh,
set
that
in
was
stone.
cute. You did a little squeak, like you were sad,
You shot me down.
like a hurt dog.
Yeah. Oh, if that's something. Sorry. Now I feel bad.
It's okay.
I'm so scared of them doing something to this.
I know. It's just that thing of I think we're so viscerally protective of it, because like there's a
Yeah.
especially since it's like, dear, for the love of Christ, don't. Because I think the reason the multiplayer got put in was because Mass Effect 3's multiplayer was so successful.
No, it was because EA made them.
I know, so EA was like, oh yeah, put it in there, regardless of how little sense it makes or how many resources it's diverting from other things.
I don't mind too much, but I wish it wouldn't suck resources from elsewhere.
Like if you could say like,
but at least it's not. At least you don't need to you don't have to do it to further the story, like fucking Mass Effect 3 when they first did it.
And then got it to the point where it's like, you literally can't do that anymore.
Yeah, and they had to like fix it. I kicked the fuck off about that.
From my comments section, by the way, if you want to email in questions or topic suggestions, or I love getting background art, I really want people to take random pictures around their neighborhood and then send them to me, because then I can put it. If you have noticed, Biofan used to do our visuals, and now, or at least on Andrometers, and now I do them. And there's a very serious change. Someone commented, like, all these visuals are random as fuck. And I was like, that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, that was exactly the intention. Oh, I just wanted to make because there was an email received from Paul Mayer, who made a few comments about there being a better balance between narrative journey and open world, because in DAI they had sort of, they gave you access to Wicked Minds, Wicked Hearts, and then it unlocked the Exalted Plains, Emerald Graves, Empress de Leon, and Hissing Wastes. So that was just like so much just wandering around in those giant maps, whereas the next story mission was like, what pride hath wrought. So it was just like, there's a lot of dead time. So I think
I think it needs to be
the balance.
It needs to be spaced out and timed better, I think.
Yeah, he also mentioned. He said it was first-person view in conversations.
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually first-person view, because they're looking
like
off camera.
Yeah.
But they zoom in. Over shoulder camera.
Well, I hope they get rid of that. I don't like that at all.
No.
Bring it back to how
something
it was.
that's zoomed in. I agree that in Inquisition, the conversations just did not do it.
Yeah, and it got too quiet then, and you try and get in, and you end up right up their arse or something, just trying to hear what they say.
I actually really liked
Inside
it
their head.
in 2 because they clearly took a leaf out of Mass Effect's book between Origins and 2, where it was like, okay, let's try and make this a little bit more cinematic. So like every time you would have a
Yeah.
conversation with a companion, you would enter sort of their space, and like Abilene would be like pacing, or
Yeah, that
they
was
would be
good.
doing something, and it
Something.
feels like
Just,
you
yeah.
genuinely like, oh, here, I'm in your
Just witnessing the
space.
conversation,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Like, intimately, like a fly on the wall. I liked that.
Whereas with
Um,
Inquisition, it was just
It's like
like,
the fly was a little bit too far away, you know?
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if they just do what, like, Witcher did with theirs, you know, do that.
Yeah, and I would love the ability to either, just for the love of God, please let me put my companions on horses so I can have the party banter at the same time.
Yeah,
And
why
then we
couldn't
can
I just
have
have, like,
yeah.
5 horses running around? That would be, or 3, what, you know, it'd be
Apparently they were
fine.
trying to do a thing where they would, like,
Stick them all
when
on the back
you
of my
summoned
horse.
your horse, that would summon horses for the rest of the party, which makes it hysterical for me because I was thinking of, like, I would totally give Bull a donkey. Just try and put, like,
Varric on a tiny little pony and stuff.
or, like, no, one of those giant as fuck nugs. With
No,
the
I
fists.
give Bull a tiny one and then a really big one for Varric, just as stupid as possible.
Well, they could all have their own mounts, and then have you'd have conversations about it. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
hey,
yeah. It's like, what
what's
kind
wrong
of
with your horse?
animal's that? Yeah.
Why does your horse have rabbit ears?
Why is your horse undead with a sword through its head?
And it had flaming
It's
eyeballs?
a unicorn. Thank you very much.
Yes,
What
it's
the
an
hell is
undead
that?
unicorn.
It's a hell unicorn.
I remember when people was like beginning to lose their shit when it's like they discovered, like, in text or something, it's like, oh, it's a bog unicorn. It's like, oh, it's totally jumping the shark. How could you possibly have unicorns in the Dragon Age universe? And then they revealed it. It was like, that's how.
Clearly
Okay,
it was
fair
something
enough.
silly.
Yeah, but Jacob Visceral Justice made a great point. Saying that, do you think we'll be able to explore both Tevinter and Cunedar, or possibly Saharon as well? Like, to explore
hope so.
more Qunari culture? Because I think that's the difficult thing with the Qunari. I don't know if it's BioWare deliberately trying to make them... Because they're already pretty alien to us. It's like, but as far as,
Yeah.
like, the actual... Like, okay, practically, how do you live with this? Is still very much up in the air, depending on, like, who you talk to. Like, between Talis, Bull, and, I don't know, the conversations we had with Sten and maybe the Arashark, it's like all 4 of these characters seem to have vastly different takes on what this
Yeah.
religion is and how to behave in it.
I mean, does it vary from like
Especially
area
like with
to
Talis
area
and
or
Bull,
groups to
because they were
group?
both Ben Hasrath. So, like, you can understand, like, Sten being wildly different to Bull because, like, Sten was in the Antam, which is, like, very much the military, was Bull was
And Bull was
spy.
also Bull was outside of them
Of
for so
course, yeah.
long that he wasn't quite as Canary as what he probably would have been when he was, you know, more integrated into the group.
I could stand to
Part
have
of his
Talis
story
both.
was that, you know, the Bull took on a nickname and became very much human, you know, not necessarily human, but more like everybody else and not like the Canary.
I don't think we would end. Like, that's another question. It's like, do you think we'd be able to resolve the conflict between Tevinter and Cunedar in terms of Saharan?
Maybe temporarily.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think it'll be something that will rage on for ages to come, and I think that's kind of the point.
Considering what Bull said, is like, oh, we'll just wait. I think, like, but considering what happened at the end of Trespasser, it would not surprise me if the Canary invasion is beginning isn't a major plot point in 4.
No.
Not to mention, I'm still half convinced, because bear in mind, we know how many of the old gods there are, and we know that there's 2 more left in the ground. So what I lovingly described as if they awakened both at the same time and started a double mega uber blight.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, and can you imagine, like,
One
2
on one side of the
archdemons
content,
at
one on the other
once?
side. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be fascinating. Like, bearing in mind, this is... Because I think that's that thing of, like, we took out... Because this was a while back, but working through, like, if you think that the old gods have a one-to-one analogy with the elven gods, it actually makes a lot of sense. So it's like, oh, so if Flemeth is Mythal, spoilers, and she's
There's no spoilers on this show.
Yeah,
we already
I know.
put a spoiler warning.
So
on.
she's a dragon, but of course, like the old gods were dragons, and they became archdemons. So maybe the elven gods are actually the old gods, and it's all the same thing. So we've had it going by that in the pantheon. There's, if you take Mithal out of it, there's still 2 dragons remaining. I forget which elven gods that allies up to. But if they got corrupted and got let loose at the same time, and then imagine if you had to fight 2 blights on 2 different fronts, it would just, I think that could be potentially fascinating depending on the characters involved, what's going on at the time. But yeah, I think that would be interesting.
They might have to be careful of not having too many things going at once.
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
suppose
saying,
it
like,
depends how far they're going to let the franchise go, and like you said earlier on, with things up in the air as they are, who the fuck knows? Maybe not to plan too far ahead, just in case.
I think someone already said that they have planned a couple games ahead.
Oh yeah, I think they had about
Yeah.
5 planned, but they could go further. But again, it just depends on EA, doesn't it?
please let this make
Where
money.
is that quote?
At least finish
Yeah.
this storyline first. you
Yeah,
know?
Mike Ladlow said
Yeah.
there's no planned ending for Dragon Age, and that it was actually that was a year ago. But he says they tend to look 2 games ahead, which
Yeah, they have
is
like
a little
a
difficult.
rough idea of where it's going. And
I
then they
trust
just
them
add
to
it.
leave it open-ended enough, an ending, that it's like, oh, the world continues. So it's like,
Yeah.
even if, say, for example, the franchise is put on hold for a while, and then it's like, and 100 years down the line, after Solus was
Like Twin
defeated.
Peaks.
Yes, like Twin Peaks. Yes.
20 years later, yeah.
Oh, crossover.
I think you cut me off before I said the email address, by the way,
Oh, I'm sorry.
which should be on the screen repeatedly. Although if you're listening to the audio version, and yes, there is an audio version, it's accidentallycasual@gmail.com. So send in stuff.
Woo.
Yes, and we probably answer your questions because at the moment it's not overwhelming. So other advice stuff there. I wanted to point out you asked whether or not we had listeners in Australia, and we do.
Yay!
Yeah, so thank you very much for listening. And then he wanted to talk about the Emu Wars, which we talked about in our first podcast.
Yes.
The what?
And he says it's literally 3 guys with 2 guns and a truck. So it's not a war at all. They just went around to try to have fun and then spun out of control. Now you have douchebags like Tucker talking about how they feel to beat emus. So out of control. Anyway, yeah, in the comment section in the email, hit us up. accidentallycasual@gmail.com.
Woo!
And we get into everything. Next week we're gonna really refine what the podcast is about. And by refine, I mean we're gonna explain in words what the hell we're doing, which is unclear at this point. 'Cause
Nobody
we're
knows.
doing
As
whatever.
opposed to telepathically. We're going to use our words rather than our minds to tell you what the hell is going on.
One thing that we are doing is the Accidentally Casual Gaming Club, which I think that was originally your idea.
It was.
Was it? It
I'm
was.
totally
Yeah, and then I'm like,
claiming
that's
it,
great.
yeah.
and then I decided to run it, and I totally fucked myself. I
Yeah.
fucked myself really, really hard.
You fucked both of us because it's like, oh no, we accidentally let Tucker announce his choice pretty much as we were doing the podcast. We're like, oh, maybe we should have discussed this a little bit beforehand and set some ground rules.
So you guys picked Detroit Become Human, and fuck all of you. So, I don't want to be so mean. I refuse to play that game. I'll just say it right now. I will not
It's
be
not
on that
bad.
podcast.
I know you hate QTE, but the
No,
story's not bad. Well,
it's-
some of it's just a bit cliche.
It's beyond hate of QTE. I cannot play it. I have never gotten more than 5 minutes into a QTE game. I can't handle it. I'm far more likely to throw my controller into my television.
You're like me in
than I am to finish
platformers.
this. And it's interesting. Like I think I mentioned, like I'd rather be punched in the face than play this game. But I was trying to think, like, what would it take for me to play it? And I was thinking maybe
Gunpoint?
$250. And then I realized that maybe people would raise $250 and give it to me, and I still wouldn't do it. I don't. We're gonna. I think we're gonna have people. We're gonna do the podcast and the book club because it's already out there. Are you willing to play Detroit Become Human, Seeker?
Oh, I'm willing to play it. It's just that thing
Okay.
of, I think we probably should set some standards
Yeah,
of like
need
for
to
each
fix
other,
that.
and not to mention, if you had mentioned like, it just wasn't very cognizant in the forefront of my mind that you absolutely hate QTEs. The fact that Tucker sprung it on you and you're like, no, absolutely no way. So people are like voting. I knew it was immediately going to win, regardless of people's opinion on the thing, because it's like, oh, let's make Midius suffer because that's funny.
Yeah, I'm not going to suffer. I'm just not going to be on the podcast. I'm not, and I shouldn't be on it because every time I'm going to ruin it for everybody. I'm just going to go on a rant.
Oh yeah, those are fun. Those are very entertaining.
If it's a good
I've
game,
played it, so if you want, I can stand in for you.
well, that'd be great if you wanted to be on that. Because I first of all, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you don't like it. And anything that people like, any games, any music, any movies, no matter what the genre or type, I'm glad that you have stuff that you're entertained in. I can't do it. I don't like QTE events in regular games, but hours of it on end is like digital torture.
I'm kind of tempted that after we do the first month, just keep having my pick be Persona 5 until eventually someone decides to shut me up and just say,
yeah,
fine,
we might
we'll let
need
you have
rules on
Persona.
that.
You've been suggesting it for 6 months in a row.
If you want to get a head start, the next one we do is almost certainly Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh yeah,
But
That looks amazing.
it does.
but because it looks like in there, and
Looks so
I'm going to
good.
seduce everyone.
All the people,
seduce
all the
everybody.
sexy Mediterranean people of
Yeah,
indeterminate
I'm
genders.
just going
By the way,
for it.
that game, you're a Spartan, right?
Yep, you
The
are.
Spartans are absolute douchebags in real life.
Even
They're
more
like a
reason for me
slave
to
state.
seduce everyone.
They run a slave state, and in order to become a warrior, you need to literally stalk and assassinate one of the slaves and then get away with it.
I know, but it's also that thing of like no
I'll pick
ancient
one that's a
culture
real
was
shit.
perfect. No ancient culture was perfect.
No, but they were like bad for their time.
I know that they were. Like no culture is perfect, but I know. I just love parts of their culture, like women being allowed to own property and being able to exercise and be educated, which was definitely unusual at the time. And
From a standard, the Greek cultures were amazing. So as I say, Sparta they were douchebags. Everywhere else in the world was far worse. So, on a curve,
Yeah.
they were amazing.
So they're maybe like the lesser of many
it's like
evils.
not that I approve of babies being discarded or anything. It's just,
just
like
thrown off cliffs.
I mean, that still happens now, doesn't it? So-
yeah. Let's not get into that.
Hopefully not as much. Anyway, Detroit Become Human, the first game on the Accidentally Casual Gaming Club. We'll have a discussion. You have about a month to play it. So the podcast that's coming out on October 30th is going to be all Detroit Become Human. Hopefully people will enjoy it. I will edit it, but I will not be on it because it'll be bad. I'll just ruin it.
Do you want me to stand in for you? For
Do you
that
want
one
to?
then?
Because
I've played.
Listen,
it. Yeah,
I don't mind having people come on for those because the whole idea is to have like a book club, gaming club. So that would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
I mean, I don't mind if
actually.
it's something
Yeah.
I played. Then yeah, come
Yeah.
on. It'd be quite nice to talk about something other than like BioWare games. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what this podcast is about. It's about, we're going to get into this next week on the show, exactly what it's like, sci-fi, fantasy, storytelling-driven RPG games. That's what we like. So anything like that we're going to talk about. And technically, Detroit Become Human does fit in there. So,
Sweet.
by the way, if you did vote for that game just to piss me off, please let me know in the comments section because I'll find it slightly amusing.
The whole comment section. I mean, yep. Like,
Yep,
Yep.
I can. But you didn't succeed because I'm just not going to do it. I refuse to do it.
Now you're stuck with me.
Literally, the as soon as he put that out and it started winning, I was like, oh, I just fucked myself. Because I was going to have veto power. We were all going to have veto power to say, like, listen, we're not doing that game. But we spent the whole podcast shutting Tucker down, literally. And I felt bad
But we
about
didn't
it.
establish that rule.
And so I didn't want to do it again. And I really didn't think it was... I was really disappointed that more people didn't pick the Banner Saga games because that's straight BioWare. Especially
I've
if
not
you're,
actually played those yet.
if you're a Dragon Age fan, that would have been the perfect time to go in there and get another universe by ex-BioWare devs, and it's great. So I'm going to talk about that at some point in the show anyway. So I don't care if you play it. Anyway,
I'm totally just gonna like
Backfired on
hijack the
you.
podcast at one point. It's like Persona 5 is like so great, you guys. You need to go play it.
but you do
I need
that
to
on
play
every
that.
podcast anyway.
To be fair to myself, it wasn't necessarily my fault that I had technical difficulties and we had to re-record that episode like 3 times. So you heard me going on about Persona 5 in particular for about best part of about half an hour.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Between
Persona
them.
5 in there. All right, so I think we're going to have to wrap this up because we're running. No, we're not. Yes, we are. These podcasts are only an hour and a half long maximum because we put them on SoundCloud, and you have to pay money to have more than 3 hours on SoundCloud.
Yeah, it's at
And I
like
wanna have at least 2 on there.
1:23. So did you
Yeah.
want to do like the other stuff quick, like the Telltale and stuff, or did you want to just
Well,
not bother?
I thought we chatted about Telltale a little bit.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just very, very sad about it.
Why do you guys
Yeah,
think
it's sad.
Telltale? Like, why did they shut down? I thought they had too many games at once.
They're basically, from what I hear, they're bankrupt. I don't want to say too much, but from the rumors I hear is that they're basically bankrupt. So
Yeah, but how did they get that way is the question.
See, I only found out about this just as I was finishing doing some voice stuff, and I went online. Everyone was talking about Telltale, and I saw it. So I don't entirely know what's happened, but I know I saw someone complain that their friend had literally just been hired by them. They quit their job, was supposed to start like Monday, and they went in
then
and they said,
the
"Sorry,
game,
you know,
it's it.
yeah, it's like we're closing down. Go and file for it."
That's a rough industry to be a part of.
Oh god, and it must suck because they just left like Microsoft or something, and now they're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
So I don't think they can get their old job back. And that's shitty. The fact that they knew
Yeah.
that they were about to go to hell and they were still hiring people. It's just not on.
I think they broke into too many studios at once and were putting out too many games, and they just got saturated.
Yeah.
The
Wasn't there
market.
some sort of problem with like they owed money for the various IPs because obviously they didn't belong to them. They're other people's IPs, you know,
It's
from
possible,
movies and
yeah,
this, that, and
that
the
they-
other. And
I don't know how
They owe money
much
for
that.
that.
Took up, though. Although I expect getting like
Probably quite a
Batman, that's
bit.
probably expensive as hell.
even with The Walking Dead, given how popular it is, because it's comics and it's TV.
Yeah, it is more popular. Well, maybe they only had a contract for one season, and then the price went up like crazy.
It's just sad that we're not going to get any more of Clem's story. You know, that was the final one.
I was just
Maybe they'll cover it in like a comic or something, but
Because bear in mind, like when I first read the news, I thought, oh, they'll at least finish The
put
Walking
the rest of
Dead.
that out. Yeah.
What I was gutted about, I was like, even then when I first read the very basic news was like I was 90% sure that they're gonna cancel the season 2 of Wolf Among Us, which I
Oh,
was
yeah,
so excited
Yeah,
about.
I've been waiting for that. And I think, that's the problem with episodic games, because they do it each time one finishes, you know, it's not ready. So if it ends on like episode 1 and you go
Yeah.
bankrupt or whatever, you're not going to get the rest of it.
I wasn't a
It's
fan of
stuck.
the way they released those games, but I wasn't going to
No.
play them any. I tried. I did try because people
Oh, yeah, 'cause
kept on
quick time
suggesting
events.
it, and I played The Wolf Among Us episode 1. I got about 10 minutes in and I threw my controller. And those controllers are fucking expensive.
Well, that's quick time events.
Those, so I don't want to do that. Anyway, I think that's all for this week. So if you like BioWare games, this is a good Dragon. I think we're having another one in 2 weeks that we already recorded, where you two got super excited and talked a lot, and it was a very. I honestly had.
And
Standard.
Minius was silent for about.
I was scared
20
to
minutes.
jump in. You guys were so smart about it. I'm like, holy shit! I feel like a little child.
Aww.
But I did have a smile on my face the whole time. So hopefully you will too. But if you like this show, tell your friends. If not, tell your enemies. We're happy either way. Accidentally Casual is a weekly podcast. Check our Twitters for the release date. The time is always the same, though. It's at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 8 p.m. in the UK, although daylight savings might fuck this up soon. I'm at MiniusGC. Seeker is at SeekerCat5500. The Absent Tucker runs at N7Follower, and you can also catch Ability Drain at Ability Drain.
Yep.
The two most recent podcasts are on SoundCloud. These podcasts are also all on our YouTube channel all the way. Hopefully we'll get audio versions up for a while. Join us next week as we fix the BioLike meter. At least Tucker doesn't like it. It's a little weird. Eventually I want to get that working so we can come up with good game suggestions for BioWare fans, as BioWare may transition into different types of games as they appear like they're doing with Anthem, which is kind of the point of this podcast. Anyway, you can email in questions, topic suggestions, and visuals for the podcast at accidentallycasual@gmail.com. Extra content, it is on our YouTube channels. Our BioWare Central, MiniusGC, and Ability Drain has stuff up. So sometimes. There's still things on your channel, though, right? You didn't erase them. So
No, tempting as that
theoretically, you
is.
can go through and yeah.
I mean, Life is Strange stuff's happening on my channel currently.
Ooh.
Everyone's like, great. Woo.
All right, for the three of us and the Tucker, I want to remind you to game happy, or Seeker's going to come to your house and kick you in your private
For a
parts.
second, I thought that was going to end very differently. I was like, don't send me to people's houses. You don't know what's going to happen.
I'll do it.
If I can team up with AD, we will definitely go.
Yes.
Like Rick,
Ability Drain and
yeah.
Seeker will show up without warning and either punch you in the balls,
Kick you right in the dick.
kick you in the dick, or punch you in the ovaries. You will not enjoy it, so you better be happy. I've completely ruined the game happy
it's
thing.
a
'cause
warning.
Now it's getting mean.
Be happy or we'll kick your ass.
Be happy, we'll kick your ass. He's a real boy now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real boy now. He's abandoned us.
That's you can tell
Kesha.
Biofan is dead. He is now Eric.